Gold has a major dip, but will it last? Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Insights brought to you by Ainslie Bullion and the Gold and Silver Standard. Today, we welcome back Sam, who's been watching the gold price quite closely, really, and has been very consistent on his analysis. So I'm very keen to hear what he has to say after the latest price action. How are you going today, Sam?
Good, Chris. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you. So gold has had a little bit of a dip here, about 127 Australian dollars. So can we start off maybe by looking at some of the reasons that you think might have caused that dip?
Yeah, well, the war situation was getting quite fiery. According to media, as of recent, there was a major fear that Hezbollah was going to get involved and use its more advanced weaponry, which includes over 1,000 rockets and potentially let the war bleed out into the rest of the Middle East, but it's stayed pretty contained in the Gaza Strip area.
Yep.
Although it has intensified, it hasn't gotten as bad as what people were speculating. The other thing is Jerome Powell gave a statement that was quite dovish, and that led to indices going up quite aggressively for the past few days. Indices have done really well. The S&P's popped back above a trend line, although it's stuck in a bit of a double top pattern now. It's done quite well. So overall, with the Fed chair being a bit dovish and the war not being as bad as it could be, and then maybe just a bit of a retracement as well, because gold AUD has surged high very aggressively.
No, that's right, because we had seen the move being so significant that sometimes you just have to expect a little bit of a pullback regardless of what's going on, I suppose. You mentioned Jerome Powell's sort of statement specifically. So we've got Powell coming out really saying things that are quite dovish, but it still seems that there's uncertainty around that. But there's certainly been in the media a lot of back and forth around whether that top is actually in. How do you sort of interpret that? What do you make of what's coming out of the Fed?
Well, what makes it really difficult is, the Fed left the interest rate unchanged, and then Powell had those comments which were, I guess, interpreted as dovish. He didn't come out as cowboy-like as he had previously.
Good point. Yep.
But then you have the other Fed speakers. So this is the game they play, and this is something that can be very annoying for traders. They'll have Fed speaker come out and say something dovish, and then another one come out the next day and say something very hawkish and make it look like they're unanimously going to be hunting down inflation, and they still have so much work to do. And that just causes markets to whipsaw oftentimes. So it's not too surprising now, with all the different Fed speakers coming out and saying different things that contradict each other, that the markets have stalled a little bit as of right now. We also have Jerome Powell going to come out and give another speech Friday at 6 a.m. our time in Melbourne, Sydney. So that could be another reason people are stalling.
I suppose that dovetails quite nicely, this idea, the game that they play that you mentioned, with what Branko was saying yesterday, because we were looking yesterday at the labour statistics and just how that downward revision that's happened month after month for 9 straight months. And, you can't really rely on the data, because you're getting a mixed story there where something comes out initially and then it's changed later. Do you think it's kind of the same thing here that's happening with the Fed, where you've got a little bit of, running confusion almost deliberately to keep people on edge? Is that how you interpret it?
Well, yes, I guess in a way, especially for shorter term traders, it's more painful because they're doing it on a day by day basis. And it would be almost as if the statisticians released statistics that went against each other each day across a week. It would just be like, are you serious? Whereas speakers, it's all about tone. So all these reporters and analysts have to go off is someone's tone. Are they being aggressive? Do they sound hawkish?
Yep.
Do they sound like they're in a bad mood? They're going to go after inflation or not? That's really all they have to hang on, in which case it's very easy to rile up the markets either way.
Yeah. And that's sort of the conclusion that we came to. A similar conclusion yesterday is it's this idea that there's a lot of factors at play. So it makes it really difficult for anyone to try and actually rely on what people are saying or the data, which, you know, you would think you'd be able to rely on one or the other. But I suppose that brings us back to something that you're very good at, which is that technical analysis side of it, where you really just have to look at what's actually happening versus a lot of these narratives, because the narratives just keep changing so rapidly at the moment. So I suppose that leads me to the question that brings it all together. Do you think this dip will last? Is that how you see it? How do you sort of look at it from that technical sort of angle, or fundamentals as well? But really, if we have to go back to technicals, because that's the only thing we can really trust here, what is that saying to you?
Well, I won't make a prediction, but I'll say some major, inflection point, or a point to look at, is in gold AUD. I'm really looking at the 3020 mark, roughly, because gold's been stuck under that for about 5 months, and then it's broken over, and it's been over that since roughly the last month.
Mm-hmm.
And it's way overshot that into new all-time highs, and it's coming down and revisiting that level, so it's almost there. Now, if you look at a range of technical indicators like MACD and moving average lines, Bollinger Bands, all the most common technical indicators, if you're looking on a short-term time frame, like daily, for example, they look quite weak. They look a little bit bearish to neutral. But then if you look a bit further, if you look at weekly, they look very, very bullish. So they're all very strong buy signals. So what that could imply, at least from a technical point of view, is that we're experiencing a retracement, but it will finish and go back to a gold bull market, according to the indicators.
And that would be consistent. And it's a really good point you make. You really do have to zoom out when looking at this market in particular, because we've been talking now for years about this cup and handle pattern that's formed on that bigger sort of zoomed out view. And really nothing that you said there, or nothing that you can see, has invalidated that. So do you still see that in play, really, if you zoom out to that sort of monthly level? Because that's happened over a decade, that pattern forming out. Is that still in play?
Yeah, I think it is. And just for investors who don't want to wait 10 years as well to look at these patterns, I'd say the major thing to look out for is gold maintaining over 3020.
Yep.
Which, for a dip, it looks like a potential good entry point if it is going to continue up. And then the next thing, tomorrow morning, we'll see what Jerome Powell has to say, because he's going to kind of cap off all this madness of Fed speakers going this way and going that way. He should kind of put the capstone on this and give the market a bit of direction, hopefully before the weekend.
All right, so we'll pay attention and see what the boss has to say tomorrow.
Yeah,
not listen to all the people running around and throwing their 2 cents in. That sounds like a good idea. Well, thanks for that today, Sam. Lots of great insight there, and we'll be watching ahead, and particularly on that level that you've pointed out, around that just over 3,000 level, to see how it holds up.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks everyone for watching. Remember, reach out with any questions or comments on those social platforms, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can on those. That's us for today, and us for this week as well. We'll be back on Tuesday at this stage with Alex to discuss all things markets and metals. Until then, have a great rest of the week and weekend, everyone.